What's going on, everyone? We're back with a little bit more My Aggie Nation podcast action here. So grateful to have Clark Brooks, the SEC Stat Cat, on here with us this week. Clark, thanks so much for giving us a few minutes of your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. So for those of you who are out there and have not been on secstatcat.com, you are missing out on just a treasure trove of great SEC football knowledge. Clark is the mastermind behind it. He goes play by play for all kinds of different all the games each week of SEC teams, and you can get deep analytics, you can get play formations, you can get all kinds of great stuff. So I got to start. How did you get started doing all of this?
Well, I am a former journalist. I did the fight in local TV, local media for a while, but the platform didn't really lend itself to nitty-gritty football knowledge. And I always thought, well, look, this is stuff people really like, and that helps separate the discussions as opposed to people just saying, oh, they just pass for a lot of yards or they're good against the run. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. What are they actually doing out there? So while I was doing some work, because I bounced around, I did a few media jobs, both in marketing and just traditional media, like local TV. But I was working for UK Athletics' marketing firm, which ran like the coaches show and all that type of stuff. So I took it upon myself to chart UK and just do all this type of different stuff because we had gotten a new offense coordinator that year, and I took it upon myself to say what exactly we're doing. And one thing led to another. My boss basically encouraged me to do this for the rest of the conference, and 3 short years later, here we are.
Sure. How long? Because you go through every play of every game and break down formations. How long? What's the process each week?
So the process each week starts on most weeks when we have a nooner, a noon kickoff. I'm Eastern Standard Time. So as soon as noon hits, I'm live charting that game. And each game takes about roughly 3 to 4.5 hours, depending on how many passes, how many plays. Passes generally take a little bit longer than runs to chart, just because there's a lot more moving parts involved in terms of routes, average time to throw, area of the field, all these different types of variables to chart and track. But yeah, every week it basically starts on noon on Saturday until about Wednesday night on any given week. I'm charting basically 3 to 4 games a day, and that's basically all I'm doing. And then once the games are done, it's data compiling time and sharing the good knowledge with all the followers and stuff, and just seeing the play calling trends, the advanced analytic risers and fallers week to week, and just all this extra, I would say, transparency with the statistics you really can't find anywhere else. Because you go to ESPN.com, you can't see who leads the SEC in targets. You can on my site in 2 clicks. So just having those stats at the forefront for the fans, I think, is a great asset to have, especially if you're a gambler and you're looking for a little bit more leeway in the gray areas on what side of the line to bet on.
Sure. So what do you have a background beyond just the journalism in mathematics and deep analytics, or is this something that you kind of taught yourself through those experiences?
Well, I have I have 2 degrees. I have a journalism degree and a business degree. So the business degree, I got to do a lot more, calculus and statistical based stuff, financial stuff, but also have an economics minor for my journalism degree. So I have a little bit of like that type of math, but math was never really my strong suit. Like, I'm a writer, I'm a content creator. That's what I am at heart. But I understand that numbers can be very intimidating to people. So I wanted to try and combine the both worlds. I wanted to articulate these new numbers that might be a little bit wacky, a little bit, like I said, intimidating to the average fan, like depth adjusted accuracy percentage. On its face, it sounds like, what the heck is that? It sounds like something made up. Well, in the right context, it can help you determine who is one of the more accurate passers, because unlike static completion and accuracy percentage, is it caught? Yes, no. Is it accurate? Yes, no. You can pad those stats throwing short a whole lot. Well, just doing a little basic math and tweaking it and making something where you apply more weight to how far something goes downfield, you have a little bit more of a true reflection of someone's true downfield accuracy. So just trying to use the communications background with the little tricks I've gotten through business school and the little financial, like time value of money, that like little calculations you can just steal and reapply to the sports world has just been a real fun aspect for me.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Is SEC StatCat your full time gig, or is this a hobby on the side?
So this is my full-time gig. First year, I was still working in local news. We were still working out the kinks for the coding. Didn't really publicly put it out there while we are working on. But last fall and this fall, it's basically been my full-time gig. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Great to find a way to do what you love. So let's put this into context for the Aggies. Just generally, what has stood out to you statistically from this year's Aggie squad that kind of separates them from the pack?
Winning on third down right now. I'll tell you that. And it's kind of highly inflated from that Florida game a few weeks ago, but they're still holding their own. Basically year over year, they're flat in a lot of areas. They're either within a percentage point or two, an overall success rate, pass success rate, rush success rate, both on early downs. But third down is what jumps off. They were, this was not in counting this past weekend, but going into last weekend, they were second best in the SEC at 58.8. Last year, 39.4 in SEC play on third down. That is a significant jump, almost 20 percentage points year over year. And now on offense, you don't want to try and live and die on third downs. You want to get those conversions on early downs. You don't want to put yourself in a spot. But at the same time, you got to like how your offense doesn't wilter under pressure. I mean, you look across the conference like at Tennessee, for instance, who also finds itself playing a lot of third downs. Well, they have the worst success rate on third downs because of their style of play and just not being able to rise to the occasion. So you look at the trajectories between the two teams. A&M is thought of as a dark horse in the West, while Tennessee's maybe thinking about getting rid of Pruitt. And it's all because of those types of situations and failing to execute. So that definitely jumps out at me. Also, last year, this offense really struggled to get explosive plays outside of Kellen Mond scrambling or in the quarterback design run game. They still have a lot of problems getting explosive gains through the air. But look, their running backs are delivering. Anais Smith and Isaiah Spiller, I think they're both top 5 in yards per carry, and I think they're both top 5 in explosive run rate. So explosive run rate for our vocabulary, that's percentage of runs that gain at least 10 yards or more on average. So you want to have a lot more explosive gains in that, of course, because the last 2 years in SEC play, looking at the numbers, the team that has won the explosive play battle, so that's, volume of passes 20 plus, runs 10 plus, like I just mentioned, have won 75% of the ball game. So racking up and winning the explosive plays has to be an area of importance. And because last year they really couldn't get it anywhere consistently outside of Kellen Mond, and the fact that they're getting it through their ground game, and you look at Kellen Mond's individual numbers, well, they're actually near the bottom of the conference. So he's a complete non-factor in this run game potency. And year over year, we didn't know exactly what it was going to be like because you guys had a lot of transfers in the offseason from that particular position group. And you moved Anais Smith from the slot receiver to the backfield to provide that depth. And, of course, we're seeing he's kind of being moved around the field a little bit more to apply a little bit more downfield explosiveness for the pass game. But, again, you've got to love how the run game is being a lot more potent down to down, a lot more threatening to opposing defenses down to down without having to use necessarily Kellen Mond in that aspect.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about Kellen too, because I know, like you said, his legs as a part of this offense has not really manifested itself this year, but his complete, if you just look at the basic stats, his completion percentages and some of his accuracy stats seemingly say that he is a better passer this year. What have you seen from Kellen, and do some of those very base level stats kind of back up the fact that he is an improved quarterback, especially in the accuracy aspect?
He had a slow start, and I'll say that. There's no doubt about it. Even 2 weeks ago. So I like to judge what can a quarterback do on throws with an average depth of target 10 yards or more downfield, right? So what are you doing throwing downfield? Well, looking at the numbers 2 weeks ago, he was dead last in completion percentage, second to last in adjusted completion percentage, and he had the third highest interceptable pass rate. So this is rate to passes that could have been picked off. Not that were picked off, had the potential to be picked off. And that's a very important distinction when you're trying to determine someone's volatility week to week. So when you're also second to last in yards per attempt, the third worst touchdown rate on those types of throws, it wasn't great. But, I mean, you flash forward to a few weeks later, and his performance throwing the football this past week against Arkansas really helped his numbers. So that statistic I mentioned earlier, depth-adjusted accuracy percentage, well, guess what? He is shot up from being bottom 4 or 5 the first month or so of the season. Well, he's now back up to second in the conference with a 60.2 clip. His success rate is so when I talk about success rate, this is just more of putting like a third down parameter on any given down. So on first downs, you have to gain 5 yards or more, 50% to gain in order to be successful. On second downs, 70% of yards to gain or more to be successful. On third or fourth down, 100%. If you don't convert, obviously it's a failed down. So his passes are still below 50%, and you wanted to get over 50% threshold. But again, the depth-adjusted accuracy is something that's really improved the last couple of weeks. And let's actually see right now how he has been doing on his deep attempts, if he still represents the floor in that regard after the Arkansas game. Because again, if the potency isn't going to come after the catch, and this is an offense that doesn't necessarily like to push the ball downfield on average, when they do throw downfield, they better execute, or else it's just a more wasted rep than an offense that likes to rip it as much as possible. So looking at his success rate right now on 10-plus passes, he has climbed into the top 10. He's now at a 50%. He's completing half of his attempts beyond 10-plus. And in terms of accuracy, he's still kind of middling. He's exactly right at the SEC average. The SEC average is 40.1. His clip is 40%. So he's a relatively average in terms of accuracy. He's on par in terms of getting successful passes, but it's just I am a little bit more bearish on that group of receivers consistently creating enough separation for the explosive plays to come. Sure, they can, like last year and 2 years ago, gaining 10, 15, 18-yard completions, no problem. But it's just getting those game-changing 20, 25, 30-plus yard passes that are just too seldom for my liking.
Sure. So let's extrapolate this to championship football. What have you found? Have you found trends? Have you found specific stat categories that point to the winningest programs? Is there certain ones that you can find, can maybe predict or point towards programs that will have success?
I mean, I like to hone in on that explosive play percentage, like I said before. So last 2 years, explosive plays have determined the winner in 75% of SEC games. So far, it's basically held pat this year. So I mean, if we flash forward and we look at the SEC offenses that are the most explosive, well, I mean, it's like Alabama and Florida. And Ole Miss is kind of an outlier because their defense is so bad. But you got to remember on the other side of the coin, what explosive plays are they allowing that offsets their own offensive potency? So like Georgia, of course, Arkansas, of course, that's on the defensive side of the ball. They've been the two best as opposed to limiting teams. So I was actually kind of surprised how A&M was actually able to beat their own expectation and Arkansas's expectation in terms of explosive passes this past weekend. So, I mean, look, you got Ole Miss, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, and A&M in the top 5 in explosive pass rate. All of them except for Ole Miss are positioned to have a run here in this last month plus. So you got to like that. And the ones at the bottom, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Arkansas, we have a lot of questions about their offenses moving forward.
Sure. Then I guess we need to talk a little bit of defense before we go here. A&M's defense, the biggest question mark was its defensive secondary. It's always really had a great run stopping presence while Mike Elko has been in Aggie land. Do the numbers match up with that, and how does A&M match up overall in the SEC?
Overall, they're better than most. They're on the good side of average, but I mean, because we have so many good defenses in this conference, it's obviously much harder to stand out. But yeah, you mentioned the stopping the run. So one of the aspects that I like to look at and what separates runners from the average to the good ones is what can you do after contact. Basically, any runner with SEC type of capabilities could run to space and make plays, but what can you do making guys miss? How consistently can you make guys miss? So on the defensive aspect, you want to make that as hard as possible with early engagement. Well, after contact, let's change something. Both after and before contact, A&M is below the SEC average. So they've actually fallen off this past week, which is kind of surprising because heading into the bye week, they were number one in yards before contact. So they were getting to runners and they were making them make a lot of plays after contact. So making them go above and beyond, making them miss tackles and all that type of stuff. But the big issue for me, you already mentioned it, it's allowing explosive passes through the air. So when you play Alabama early in the season, it's going to skew your numbers negatively. But, I mean, we have a pretty decent sample size that kind of balances it out. And they still don't necessarily match up all that great in terms of allowing big gains through the air. So looking at percentage of pass plays that gain at least 15 yards or more, bottom four in the conference with only Tennessee, LSU, and Missouri being worse. Basically, 1 out of 5 passes on average gain 15 yards or more. That's not necessarily sustainable. Like I said, playing an offense like Alabama will skew the numbers, but you also have someone like Vanderbilt on your resume who's not a particularly great passing offense. So that's fairly concerning, and that jumps off the page. And in terms of 50-plus, you're still bottom 6 at 11.3. So between 15 and 20%, it's still about between 12 to 20% of your pass plays. It's highly volatile. And in terms of volume of explosive pass plays, tied for second most with 18. So the most in the conference is 20. They have 18.
Wow. Yeah. That's definitely kind of matches up with what everyone kind of thought with leading in the season and what A&M has shown so far. So let's go back and tell the people, you said this is your full-time job. How, if people, other than just going to your website and finding all this great data, which is something I've already done and incorporated into my stories, I tip my cap to you for that. How is some ways that people can continue to find you and support what you're doing?
Well, I need to definitely tweak the subscription model, but since I'm a one-man department and basically the situation this year has just been rather unique, it's put a lot of different responsibilities on my plates where I haven't been able to focus on certain things. Like I've been wanting to tweak certain designs on the site, but right now it's basically the site is a freemium model where you can basically consume everything for free to a certain point, except for the content pieces. So you can view about 3 pieces of content for free until you're forced to pay. But I would always like to encourage people to sign up for that monthly subscription where you can get unlimited amount of free views of content, no matter if it is the statistics, the articles, the one-on-one videos. Like if you don't know what like a smash concept is, you can watch a 2-minute video, be informed and know what it is walking away, and how to recognize it on film and that type of stuff. So there's a lot of different avenues and assets on the site, like past charts and target heat maps and and advanced analytics like we've been talking about. So definitely check that out. The most of the statistics are shared through Twitter. I do have a Facebook page. I wouldn't say it's necessarily updated all that much. Most of the stuff does go through Twitter and the desktop version of the site. Now, the mobile version does work, but because of all the tables and graphs that I aforementioned, the desktop version blows mobile out of the water. So if you're going to experience this for the first time, I highly recommend doing it on desktop or laptop.
Mm-hmm. And I'll have to close it out with this because I'm pretty curious with a guy who, with your background, with what you've been able to do. Where do you see this going? What are your hopes and dreams for this website and for this new little niche that you carved out for yourself?
I mean, hopefully it keeps going because I think just because of how to engage people. I already mentioned the gambling aspect. That is going to be huge moving forward. So it's trying to just use the data and the resources in our back pockets just to get a little bit more, let's say, refined, a little bit more accurate in our forecasting abilities there. But I mean, I don't want to say that we're going to be like a Saturday Down South or a Pro Football Focus, just because we're not exactly quite like that. But at the same time, yeah, we're trying to build our own little niche. And the SEC, it always means more. Just trying to describe this is so convoluted on itself. Like, if I had to give an elevator pitch, what is it? It's an X's and O's advanced analytics website for SEC football, which there's a lot to unpack right there. And that's the whole point. It's trying to give nitty-gritty football nerds all the tools and the stats at their fingertips, while giving the casual and average fan content where they can grow and expand their knowledge of the game. So it's trying to bring the two together. And again, use my communications background to communicate it all in a easily digestible way that's not intimidating or scares people with nitty-gritty numbers and all that type of stuff.
And then I said I'll close it, but I actually have to close with this one because I think this will be a fun one. Okay. What have you gotten a hold of? Someone gotten a hold of you and you found out that someone uses your website that kind of you geeked out over? Was there an exciting discovery that someone had discovered you?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was last year. So everyone knows of Joe Brady, right? LSU's passing game coordinator. Well, I found out about a month into the season he was following my website, and I don't know how much he was like using it, but like he followed the account and he liked a few of the posts. So having the play caller or the passing game coordinator, the guru of the offensive transformation down in the Bayou, keeping up with my stuff, that was a kick to say the least. He has since unfollowed since he's been the Panthers coordinator. I don't think the SEC information is as pertinent to him now as it was this time last year, but always like that. And of course, there's a few writers for The Athletic that I got to kick off, some Pro Football Focus employees, people in the statistics field. So anytime that I can get someone's attention that I actually know who they are and they're in this industry, it's certainly gets me going.
Well, man, I really appreciate your time. And listen, out there, if you haven't checked out this website and you're a football fan, you need to do it. Because if you're going to be reading a lot of my stuff, I'm going to be citing this guy a lot because this guy has a lot of great information. So be sure to check him out. Thank you so much for Clark for giving me a few minutes of your time, and we'll be back with a little more My Aggie Nation podcast after this.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Hey man, I appreciate you so much. That was awesome. And like I said, I am